Let's head into this newscast with all the latest coming in from UK. It's a frantic Friday in the United Kingdom as counting gets underway across the country in what is a monumental election for the country. So far, just over 15 seats have been announced, and the exit polls earlier in the day predicted an outright majority for the Conservatives led by Boris Johnson. Conservatives are predicted to win 368 seats, while Labour have come down to 191. If these figures do end up holding, this would mean huge reversals for the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn. In fact, it would be the worst ever election result for the Labour Party. For the Conservatives, it is indeed a Merry Christmas. The exit poll numbers represent the biggest win ever for the Conservatives since 1987, during Margaret Thatcher's third election. On account of the exit polls, the British pound surged to its highest level in 3.5 years, in fact, against the euro. Let's have a closer look at what these exit poll numbers mean. For one, this is a huge blow for the Labour and a clear rejection of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. Remember, he had been accused of anti-Semitism throughout the campaign, but did not apologise for it despite having the chance to do so. On Brexit, Corbyn's position was too ambiguous. He wanted to renegotiate a deal with the European Union and present it as an option in a new referendum. Corbyn may have misjudged the average British voter who wanted to put the mess of Brexit behind him. For Boris, these numbers could not be better. He will have the brute numbers to push the Brexit deal through the House of Commons and get Brexit done by January as he promised. The sheer majority is quite a mandate in favour of Johnson. This could very well be the biggest Tory victory in more than 30 years. On to the current numbers now. So far, 14 seats have been counted, and most of these seats are from the northeastern parts of the country, where the Labour seems to be doing reasonably well. They have bagged 10 seats, while the Conservatives have won 4 seats. But here too, there is a change in tide. Let's look at the constituency of Breath Valley. The seat had never been won by the Tories, but this time around, the Conservatives have wrested the seat from the Labour Party by a slender margin. For more details, let's quickly go across to our Beyond correspondent Lucy, who's joining me live from the United Kingdom with all the latest coming in from London. Let's quickly go across to Lucy. Lucy, a very warm welcome to you. What are the exit poll predictions looking like? Have there been any surprise swings?
I think this election is a huge surprise. When that exit poll dropped just after polls closed, just after 10 o'clock UK time, so around 3 hours ago, there were gasps at the election party that we and the team were at. This was a huge surprise, a much bigger majority for Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party than was anticipated. A huge majority, as you were saying there, 368 seats. That's plus 50 to what Boris Johnson, to what the Conservative Party achieved in the 2017 general election, and a dire result for Labour predicted. 191 seats forecast. That's down 71 seats from the 2017 election. So a really devastating prediction for Jeremy Corbyn and his Labour Party. The results that have been coming through over the last 3 hours have broadly been in line with that exit poll. But I just want to talk about specifically 2 constituencies. You mentioned Blythe Valley there. That has been a Labour heartland for the last 100 years. It has always been red. It has always been Labour. But it has gone to the Conservatives today, admittedly by a small margin, but this is a historic redrawal of traditional party lines. And the reason for that is Brexit. Labour is perceived to be out of touch in key Leave voting areas like Blythe Valley. The same is true for Workington, again, which has fallen to the Conservatives from Labour today. So really an extraordinary result. We are seeing areas that have always been Labour falling and turning blue this evening. So real withdrawals of traditional party lines in this general election.
Right, this does seem like a historic election, Lucy, and as you rightly mentioned that the Conservatives have been able to break into the Labour heartland. How much of this election has become about Brexit, and do you think that Corbyn's take on anti-Semitism has actually worked against him?
I think Corbyn's unpopularity with voters is clearly a major factor in why Labour has performed so badly, in part because he was reluctant to take a clear line on Brexit. His position within the Labour Party on Brexit was to renegotiate the terms of our EU withdrawal, then put that to a second referendum. The terms of that referendum would be binding, but it meant in the minds of many voters yet more political paralysis, more delay, and that was a message that Boris Johnson seized upon, and he had that very, very clear message: get Brexit done. A three-line clear slogan that has really cut through in those northern heartlands which really voted in heavy numbers to leave the European Union back in 2016 in our EU referendum. But Jeremy Corbyn, I think, on the doorstep, whilst his position on Labour was a disadvantage in many constituencies, as you say, anti-Semitism, his perceived failure to deal with that problem, his personal unpopularity, he's perceived to be a radical left-wing figure, out of touch with many voters, particularly in working-class communities. Boris Johnson, however, has run a successful campaign, that clear slogan. He made a gamble right at the start of this snap poll that this was going to be a single issue election, that Brexit would be the central issue, and that it was all about that on the doorstep. And it does appear that gamble has paid off today.
Very rightly said, Lucy. That gamble has paid off. That motto which Boris Johnson seemed to have followed of "get Brexit done," that finally seemed to have actually translated into votes, as we can see. Do you not think that Brexit at the moment is overshadowing other issues of imminence, like be it climate change, be it mental health, the increase in youth crime rate, or even the cut in youth service funding?
Yes, and Labour have said this evening, some senior ministers, shadow ministers from the Labour Party have been saying this evening that they thought that there would be other issues on the table for voters. They were banking on an anti-austerity platform, of reducing the cuts that have been made by the Conservatives over the last decade that they've been in power. That's issues like the NHS, crime, policing, more money for schools and for health. But it does appear that there was really only one issue in the minds of voters during this 5-week campaign, and that was Brexit. And the Conservatives' very simple campaign on that issue appears to have been the more successful one. But there is lots of agonising and discussion, particularly on social media this evening, amongst Corbyn supporters, amongst Momentum, the very powerful campaign group that has propped up the Corbyn leadership. Talk amongst them about the future of the British left, what now happens in the Labour Party, which has been dragged over the course of the last 4 years, 4 election campaigns rather, further and further over to the left. So will we have someone from Jeremy Corbyn's inner circle taking over if this exit poll is correct, and if these results continue to confirm the predictions of that exit poll? What then happens to the future of the Labour Party? I think that will be the key discussion in the coming days here in the UK.
Very rightly said. This is going to be a key discussion, and a lot of introspection to be done for the Labour Party at the moment when it comes to this disastrous defeat that they're staring at. So realistically speaking, we're looking at three broad possibilities: a Conservative majority, no overall majority, and a Labour majority, which of course the exit polls have already ruled out. But what happens next?
Well, we were looking, when I started work a long time ago, almost 24 hours ago now, we were looking at the possibility of a hung parliament. That's when no party has a clear majority, and it would be up to then Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, to form a minority government with other like-minded parties, the Liberal Democrats, which is a pro-EU party. But this exit poll has really turned all of that onto its head. It's predicting not just a small majority for the Conservative Party, but in fact a comfortable majority, one that even Boris Johnson, this would have been at the upper end of what he was expecting. 368 seats in the House of Commons, Labour down to just 191 seats, which is their worst result since 1935. This would be the best result for the Conservative Party since the 1980s. So Boris Johnson, at this point now, he has a comfortable mandate to get his Brexit deal through the Houses of Parliament. He will take us out of the European Union by his Brexit deadline of January the 31st, if not before. And it will then be up to him to negotiate a free trade agreement with the European Union. So really, the UK is looking now at a departure from the EU. It seems that that is all but certain at this stage of the election.
All right, that's quite a fair way of looking at it, a departure from the EU, and that is something Boris Johnson, or Bozo as they call him, is going to ensure that is done by January next year. Coming to the markets, how are the markets looking, as we believe that the pound has seen a major surge? What are the markets looking like, Lucy?
Yes, we did see a major surge almost exactly at that moment that the exit poll dropped at 10 p.m. UK time. And that was, I think, market fears about the impact of a Corbyn-led government. Corbyn is clearly a radical left figure. There were fears about what would happen to businesses. There would be renationalisation of key industries. So a Boris Johnson-led government is clearly, in the minds of the economists, a better option for the UK economy.
Absolutely, and let's leave it at that, because we'll keep coming back to you for more live updates as more results pour in. And I think by afternoon today, or much before afternoon in India, we will have the results coming in. And we surely hope that viewers keep tuning in to WION for all the latest update on this. Thank you so much, Lucy, for bringing us all those details.